This is episode 2 of the Unicorn Gundam series, and today we're starting the build. So before we get into the build, we're going to want to open up our bags of sprue. So to do that, I just have my trusty knife, which you will see me using throughout the whole video series. And we just cut our bags open, and then open up the bags. And inside, of course, we will find sprue, and we're going to go ahead and put that in our box and put the trash off to the side, and continue to open up the rest of our bags. Of course, again, more sprue. And this one, more sprue. So this is a real grade kit if you didn't see day 1 of the Unicorn Gundam build. So this definitely has a lot of little tiny pieces, and you'll really see that in the next bag of sprue. And this is just a lot of really tiny pieces, and it's not going to be a very big Gundam kit when we're finished, but it is going to be packed with detail and features. So I'm very excited to get it done. Now, you can see here, this whole plate is just full of tiny little pieces, and these are definitely not for toddlers, just for the sake of them choking on it. And as far as the age goes, I think just about anyone can build this. And just basically, if they have small enough hands and the skill to be able to build this, I think really anyone can. So this is our sticker sheet, or really a decal sheet on here and kind of stickers down here. That is a lot of decals and kind of is intimidating. So we'll get into that in the build right now. Real quick, I'm going to show you guys how to actually cut out and bend one of these pieces from the sprue. Now that's right, we are actually going to be able to move these with the joints, and that's one crazy thing that I really like about Bandai. With the precision of their molding, they are able to dual mold it and be able to have that as a fully built foot, or the base of the foot, and be able to move it around straight out of the mold. So to cut that, from the instructions, it says to cut right here, which you want to get really nice and close. And then you want to cut right here, and then again right here. Again, get as close as you possibly can. You'll thank me later. And then we're gonna try to cut right here. So there is one of our feet. We'll cut the other one out later, but this is actually the whole base of the foot. Now to kind of bend that, we are going to just take this, and it says to bend it up, and you can see that straight out of the mold we are actually able to bend the joints of this thing, which is pretty crazy. So now that can actually move pretty freely, and we are actually going to bend this, and then we are going to put in another piece, and then we are going to be able to put this together a little bit more. So I'll go ahead and do that with both of the feet, and I'll have those built, and then we will check in a little bit, and I'll show you guys what those look like. As promised, here are the 2 finished feet. Now, one thing that I really liked about this is the piece that we trimmed out earlier, and that is the little bit that has all of the joints in it, and that is actually injection molded like that, and I think that is pretty insane that Bandai is able to do that. And that is all of the positioning for our foot, and that is pretty awesome. And one thing that I was actually kind of surprised about was that this white color here and this white color here are actually very subtly, but definitely different shades of white, and I was definitely surprised about that. And another thing I noticed is the blue on the bottom of the foot and the blue on the toe of the foot are actually different shades of blue, which I thought was pretty cool. And overall, this is about 9 pieces, one of those being that injection molded joint piece, which again is really awesome. So with that said, these things went together really nice, and I think the plastic in this real grade set might actually be a higher quality plastic than the high grade sets from Bandai. And I say that because in the high grade sets you kind of trim it up and there might be a little white dot left over, and with this plastic you trimmed it up and the little nub left over from the sprue just kind of slides off and it looks very clean afterwards. So with that said, let's go on to the legs and we'll take a look at those in a bit. here are the legs of our Unicorn Gundam, and you can see on the right we have the fully finished left leg, and I think it's kind of funny that I put that on the left, but there it is. And it has a ton of little built details. I mean, there are a ton of parts. I ended up losing track of how many there were, but there are all kinds of little tiny pieces making up a bunch of really, really nice details in this model. And you can actually see up here there is that color change, just like we saw on the foot between those two shades. You can see it again up top on the leg, and you can actually see as I turn it around that there are just a ton of details in this thing. And I actually left the other leg a little bit unfinished so that you can see some of the inner workings of the leg, and you can actually see that knee joint, and that is another one of those pieces that you clip out of the sprue and it is pre-assembled as a joint, and that is kind of the base of the legs. And I really, really like that Bandai has given us those. It just makes the whole process so much easier instead of having to build those joints. But you can see kind of the mechanism in that, and this whole pink and black or dark gray part here is again all injection molded, which is really crazy. Now you can also see underneath there we also have a little bit of a rocket booster in there, and I can actually fold that out so you can get a better look at it. And both legs are completely positionable. You can see some of that trans pink / red in there, and that just looks really awesome. And that is actually for when it turns into destroy mode, which is going to be awesome. I will reveal that when the whole kit is done so that you guys can just see it just as a whole, and it's gonna look absolutely awesome. Again, you can see all of those tiny little pieces and all of the little details, and I really think that this whole kit is so far is looking very, very nice. So for day 2, we got both of the legs done, and those are looking really nice with all of their little details and all of their little parts. Now, speaking of little parts, earlier I said that this is kind of a kit for anyone with the skill of it, or for it rather, and I want to clarify that. I really kind of meant that the high grade version of the Unicorn Gundam is more so for anyone with the skill for it, and that is definitely a much easier and even cheaper kit to buy and build, and I would definitely recommend that if you're new to the hobby of just modeling in general, and I definitely recommend that. It's a pretty cool kit. We'll have it linked in the description below, and we'll also have this real grade version, which is basically a more complicated, lot more smaller pieces version of the high grade one, which has bigger pieces and is definitely less complicated and doesn't require too much skill. Now, this one is definitely very complicated, very intricate, requires a lot of patience, and I definitely recommend this to some of the more advanced modelers because it is a really fun process to go through and see how all of the little mechanisms to position the legs and all of that works. And again, I think Bandai is really ahead of the whole market of modeling with all of their molds, and the way that all of that fits together is just really, really nice. Now, with that said, I'll also have the perfect grade version of the Unicorn in there if you're really ambitious, and those things are huge and very, very complicated. I really don't think that you should do that if you're new to the hobby. Now, with that said, be sure to like, subscribe, click that bell so you never miss a video. Check out this video, which is the one that YouTube recommends for you, and be sure to check out this playlist, which is the Unicorn Gundam playlist, and be sure to stay tuned for that day 3 video. And I'll see you next time on LuclearFusion.